Yes, what you're seeing on screen right now is from a WWE game, and this is not even the craziest thing you can do in this game. In fact, it gets way worse as we progress through the video, and I'll show you how. The WWE and other organizations in the 90s and early 2000s were throwing any crazy idea they could against the wall, hoping that it sticks. After finding success with a zombie character and a beer-chugging redneck that beats his boss frequently, the product got edgier and edgier, trying to push the limit everywhere they could. This resulted in some very questionable moments that the WWE wishes we forgot. See for example Vince McMahon making his top female wrestler at the time get on all four and bark like a dog. There are many more cases with casual racism, implied rape, and many more things I could show you on screen right now, but I rather not, since the WWE tried to strike most of the videos that bring attention to these moments. There's nothing inherently wrong with those storylines and creative choices, since it's fiction like any other show on TV, but the WWE has a really young and impressionable audience, no matter how they rate the show. The WWE games are based on the show, so obviously those themes and storylines would bleed into the game. Some of the games had very questionable game modes and storylines that were just as crazy and maybe even more crazy than the show itself. To be fair, the games were pretty accurately rated as teen and above, but I'm sure most parents probably didn't take a second look at the wrestling game that they bought for their kids. We'll start with the first thing that you saw in the beginning of the video, which was the Fulfill Your Fantasy game mode from SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. The match would have you pick a female wrestler and choose one of three outfits, which was schoolgirl, nurse, or French maid. In the match you be confined to the ring, which you can't leave, with the goal of filling the fantasy meter. The meter can be filled by forcibly removing the top and bottom clothing articles of the other wrestler. This sadly won't be enough to win the match. To completely fill the meter, you can pick up one of the pillows and hit the other divas as if it was a steel chair. Each hit fills the bar a little bit. If you perform an Irish whip and send the other diva to the bed, you can go into a spanking minigame which will fill the bar as well for every time you successfully spank your opponent. Depending on which activity sends the meter over the edge, so to speak, you'll get a different victory cutscene. The match is insanely detailed for a 2006 game, even though no such match ever occurred in real-life WWE. There was only ever bra and panties matches, which are the strip portion of the Fulfill Your Fantasy match. The rest was just made up for the game. Now moving on from the softcore adult match, we have the next bit, which is a little bit spicier and socially more provocative. In the 2008 24/7 mode, which was the season mode for the game, you'll have a storyline where a duo of male wrestlers who happen to date two other female wrestlers are your next opponents.
Hey, I know you're facing my man tonight, but I can't wait to see you in action. Actually, I shouldn't even call him my man. I mean, things haven't been going great, and I don't know how much longer... Ugh, why am I telling you all this? Anyway, good luck tonight.
After your first win in this storyline, one of the female wrestlers invites you for a drink in her hotel room after showing interest in you. A few days later, after her boyfriend finds out, you essentially get a false Me Too allegation against you in a tell-all article that says you harassed her. During the entire storyline, you are thrown in 2v1 situations as the female general manager seeks to punish you based on the false accusations. Your career is also at risk because if you lose either of the last two matches in the storyline, you're fired from your current brand and have to migrate to one of the other shows. The last match in this storyline is a ladder match where you have to retrieve a briefcase with your contract in order to stay on the show. And if you win, things just seem to blow over, like nothing ever happened. Getting a false Me Too allegation before it even existed is really heavy thematically, but the next storyline is even crazier. In WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2005, which was the first in the SmackDown vs. Raw series, the first storyline is about Tori Wilson being the manager of Rene Dupree, which fails to win consistently despite of her help, and he actually blames her for his losses. You can choose to swoop in, call him out on it, and win her away from him, or you can also be a really forceful creep intending to make her your manager with or without her consent. Using phrases like, quote, whether she likes it or not, and showing up in her locker room unannounced. After defeating her partner in the pay-per-view event, you win her contract as your manager and seal it with a very forceful kiss. Seeing as she is now your property, you drag her away to the locker room with your arm around her, with the implication that other things may be happening. Now at best case you're a really forceful creepy stalker that just SA'd a woman, and in the worst case it's implied that you raped her. This is not the only instance of something like that happening in WWE games, because if we jump back to SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, I'm pretty sure it's the first cutscene in the 24/7 season mode. In that cutscene you are being interviewed by a female wrestler named Maria, and as you're about to kiss her after charming her, your rival for the next month swoops in and forcefully kisses her as she is visibly disgusted and pulls away. The theme of objectifying female wrestlers in the WWE was very prevalent through the 90s and early 2000s. Many of the female wrestlers back then fit a certain body type and measurements. In fact, a lot of them were former models with Playboy history, and they were hired with minimal wrestling training just for their looks. As the product became more PG friendly, the WWE moved away from that, and female wrestlers today are mostly treated like the male wrestlers creatively, and they can competently wrestle like the men. When I say wrestle, I mean performing the move safely in a way that's believable, not actually beating the other men. You'd probably never see the things that you saw in those games and the WWE product back then for a couple of decades in the current political and social climate, and maybe it's for the better. If you enjoyed this video, maybe you would enjoy the other video that is currently on screen, where I show you the best Pokemon game that was taken away from us.